Hello, and a very warm welcome to This Woman's Work, a space where you can hear and read about some amazing women, the fantastic jobs they do, and the paths that have led them to where they are today. I'm here today with Clare. Hi, Clare.
Hi.
Hi. Hi. Could you tell the lovely listener what it is you do for a living?
I'm a physiotherapist.
Fantastic. And how long have you been a physiotherapist
So
for?
I qualified in 2008 from Liverpool Uni, so 15 years.
Yeah, I can't do the maths on that.
I think about 15 years. I got a 15-year NHS badge the other week. So
it's 15 years since 2008.
Maybe. There's a chance.
That's horrid.
1990.
It's horrid.
Yes. So 15 years. So I got a little badge that says, thanks for working in the NHS for 15 years. Which, always makes people trust you a bit more when you've got a badge with a lengthy time scale on, I reckon.
Yeah.
And following that, I went and worked in Birmingham, and I worked there for 6 years and then moved to work in Leicester.
Oh, okay. So when you first qualified, you stayed up in Liverpool, did you?
So I went from Liverpool. My first job was in Birmingham.
Yeah, okay.
So when you qualify as a physio, they change the name of it all the time, but you qualify as a junior physio.
Yeah.
And I went to Birmingham and started doing rotations. At that time, they were 4 monthly, and I went to work in lots of different areas. So in ITU, on the medicine wards, with stroke patients, with patients who'd had head injuries or spinal cord injuries.
Gosh, and in Birmingham, what made you pick Birmingham? Because that's like hardcore. That's
big. It's a big hospital.
Yeah.
It's a big teaching hospital. It's a great place for experience.
Because you knew you were going to see everything.
And at that time, actually, when I qualified, jobs were not easy to get.
Oh, right.
So you had to really be on it to get a job. There weren't loads. At the moment, there's actually quite a lot of Band 5 jobs available. But at that time, there were not many at all. So you had to kind of go, well, this is a good hospital. I'll apply there and see what happens.
Yeah.
And I can't remember where else I applied actually now. Maybe I would have applied anywhere in the country at that point. I didn't mind. Maybe did something like Newcastle anyway. But I got that job in Birmingham, and it's a great place to start as a physio. It was brilliant. I got to experience so many.
I bet you did.
Things, and they had links with the children's hospital, so I got to go and work in Birmingham Children's Hospital and the Royal Orthopaedics, or Specialist Orthopaedic Hospital. I got to go and do some hydrotherapy work there, and out into the community as well. So I got to get lots of little bits of experience,
varied.
Begin my career really, and just see what was out there, and see what kind of I liked and stuff like that, which was a really good opportunity to have. And I always say to the junior physios that come through now, just do some rotations, don't rush to become a band 6, or don't rush to specialise, because there'll be little bits that you gain from anywhere you go to work, even if it's not your favourite. And there was this one rotation people didn't want to do, and it was adult learning disabilities in the community, and everyone's like, oh, you've got to go and work in the community. It might not be as interesting as the big hospitals that are really fast paced and exciting. And I learned so much. It was absolutely brilliant.
Wow.
The skills that you can learn and then take forward into the rest of your career is really important. So I think just taking my time, going to different places, working in different areas, even if I thought, I'm not sure I want to work in acute medicine for my whole career, but actually I learnt lots, and that was important at the time. I worked with some great people, some friends you'll have for life when you do those junior rotations, and you have got to do these on-calls, and you're up at 3 a.m. in this massive hospital, and you're going in to see really acutely unwell patients, and you need those friends like, oh, this patient was struggling with this, what do I do? And that support network that you build is great. It's really, really important. And then useful now if I go, oh, you know what, I wonder in Birmingham what they're doing with this, or what's happening in this area.
You've now got a network of people you can
so it's really useful to have, to be able to go, what are you doing about this at the moment? And stuff like that. But it was it was crazy. It was fast paced. It was, you know, mildly stressful at times.
Yeah.
But I loved it. It was great.
Wow.
But I really like my job, so, you know.
Yeah. Let's track all the way back to little Clare.
Yeah.
Little Clare at school, college. What were you like? What were you interested in?
So at primary school, I definitely did not speak to my reception teacher for the whole first year. I didn't say a single word to her. I was quite shy, quite quiet. And people now are like, as if you were quiet. But I was like a really, really quiet, quite quiet child.
Primary school quite daunting, or
I don't know.
Or she was just scary.
I don't even think she was scary. I think she was very, very nice.
Oh.
I just was a bit shy, and I was that child that, you know, when you go to a party, because I have that child now. When you go to a party, doesn't necessarily just run and join in. And now when my daughter does it, I'm like, oh, Mum, it's so frustrating. She just doesn't want to go and join in and get going. And my mum's like, yes, that was you.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. Over time, I guess I just got more confident and that built up. I'm not sure really. I don't remember it. I don't remember thinking I'm never speaking to that teacher, but I was quite quiet.
Yeah. Okay. So then went through primary school into secondary, and then were you more confident in secondary then?
I guess I must have just built my confidence. I, you know, went to...
You started talking to teachers at secondary.
Yeah, I started talking to teachers at secondary school and other people.
Yeah.
I must have just developed that over time. I think, you know, I have like good friends, and I don't know, I just became more chatty, and now I love to talk. I have to talk to patients all the time. I have to quickly be able to make a connection with a person and communicate. And I'd say that is where one of my strengths lies now in my job, and in what I do day to day.
Yeah.
And so I must have just developed those skills at some point. It must have just happened.
So then college, what did you do? What A-levels did you do, or did you not do
So I did international baccalaureate.
Wow, okay.
So at my school there was an option to do A-levels or an option to do IB.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I wanted to do at that point.
Yeah.
I knew that I'm more science-minded.
I was going to say, I was wondering if you'd say I did a load of sciences.
I'm definitely not arty or creative at all. Like, to the extent that creative stuff, I'm like, ooh, definitely not.
I bet you are more creative than you give yourself credit for.
No. In quite an entertaining way, I'm not at all creative with regard to stuff. Yeah. But I'm more of a scientist.
Yeah.
And with IB at that time, I don't know what you actually have to do now. You had to choose 3 subjects at higher and lower levels.
Okay.
And part of that has to be you have to do English and maths.
Yeah.
You have to do a language.
Yeah.
And a science and like a humanity, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. So in many ways, way more complicated than just doing A-levels.
Maybe, yes. I think doing IB makes you... So, and even if at that point, did I want to be a physio? I probably wanted to do something... Well, I knew I wanted to go to uni to do something like be a physio.
Yeah, and be something sciencey.
Yeah, something sciencey. And that's competitive.
Yeah.
And IB looks a little bit different. You know, if you've got lots of people who are going to university with the same biology, chemistry, enter other A-level and all have whatever it was at that time that you needed to get. I don't even know.
Yeah.
I thought, well, I'm not an A-star, all the A's student. But IB it looks a little bit different.
Oh, that's interesting. You could think that.
Yeah, and actually, interestingly, that helped me get my place at university.
Did it? Okay.
Yeah. So having something just that was a bit different.
Yeah.
I actually rang them up and said, hi, I'm really sorry, but I didn't do so well in my Italian, unsurprisingly. I've dropped a point because it's a point scoring thing. And they were like, don't worry, it's really interesting what you've done. Come in.
Yay.
And what made you choose Liverpool then to go to? Because was it one of the? Were you trying to think of where are there best unis for this, or
so the good thing about Liverpool at that
apart
time,
from it's an amazing city and a great student life.
Yeah, Liverpool is an amazing city, and when I went, people like Liverpool, like, oh, what's going to happen? I was like, I think I'll be fine. It's such a great city. I would recommend anyone to go there. And that was before it was. I went before it was all fancy, and now Liverpool won, and it's looking amazing. Liverpool, the placement. So when you're a physio student, you're in university, and then you go out on placement. Yeah. So you have these. Every university's different. These 6-week blocks of placement, and for Liverpool, they've got lots of hospitals and they've got lots of resources, and you don't have to go and live away. So some universities you have to go and stay in that hospital accommodation for 6 weeks somewhere else, blah, 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 to be able to fulfil your placement. But for Liverpool, you didn't have to. I don't know about now, but you didn't have to at that time.
So did that, went to uni, left uni, went to Birmingham.
Yes.
6 years in Birmingham. Yeah. And then what made you decide to leave Birmingham?
Well, unfortunately, my husband made me leave. So
you met him in Birmingham then?
No, he's from Rutland. I met him in Rutland. He's a farmer, they don't move. Yeah. And he spent a long time trying to convince me that it would be okay not to work in Birmingham, because I loved it. Aww. I loved it. And eventually, so I was like moving between Birmingham in the week and then Rutland at the weekend.
Yeah, did you try and commute it?
Yeah, I did a bit of that. And then we did get married before I eventually made the official move of my job.
But also, I'm guessing you've also got to wait for a job to come up with you.
Yes, exactly. And by that point, by the time I moved, I knew I wanted to work in outpatients and musculoskeletal services.
Okay.
I knew I had a bit of a special interest in burns and plastics and the upper limb. So I had been working on a major burns unit in Birmingham. Gosh. And
that's making my tummy go.
Yeah, I've got quite a solid stomach for that.
That was going to be one of my questions in a minute.
And I knew that I have quite a special interest in that. It's a little bit more niche, and I saw this job come out, and it was senior physio. I was working as senior physio in Birmingham by that point, actually, but it was senior physio working in outpatients with burns and plastics.
Oh my God, so just perfect.
And I was like, all right, I'll apply. I did. I applied for the job. I got it. And then I moved to work in Leicester.
There you go. And even Leicester's quite a busy city, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's also got a university there, so it's it's a busy city.
It's a big hospital. There's 3 hospitals. It's big. There is, big hospitals. There's lots going on.
In terms of getting qualified, I always do like to ask people a little bit. So, you have to do a degree, don't you, to be qualified in this? And obviously, there's courses all around the UK. Is there anything? Is there sort of top-up courses that you can do or should do, or?
There's lots of things you can do. Yeah, lots and lots of things you can do after you qualify.
And is this just specialise in a particular thing, or just to
there's courses just to extend your knowledge. Yeah. So I've more recently done like a specialist hand course, so that you're just increasing your knowledge on that area. Yeah. And there's people who do things like masters. PhDs that are physios that are applying to do things like PhDs and research. There's always more learning that you can do, but you don't need to do, because you learn so much at work, and we do training at work, and we provide training at work as well.
If some people are a little bit more academic and they like the theory side of it,
absolutely,
then and that's not you so much. Maybe when you're a bit older, do you think you might?
Well, I don't know. So I'm dyslexic, and through that, my husband will say, she's not dyslexic because she can spell things. I'm dyslexic. I have a piece of paper, and I'm not very good at, if I read information, I'm not very good at necessarily remembering that information.
Right.
Or if I've got an idea, I'm not good at applying it to paper. My job is very verbal. And very practical.
Interesting.
So if I know there are things that involve, you need to read like these articles or this stuff, I can do it and I will do it, but I'm less likely to be driven to do it. I think that suits my job, suits my like personality and my brain. In a sense.
Well, I guess there's still a lot of admin and...
Oh, there's loads of admin. I have to do loads. I do loads of patient notes and admin and all of those things. But I'm lucky because I can talk a lot in my job.
Aww.
Which is good.
So have you ever considered going private? Might you consider going private?
I think this is a question I get asked quite a lot.
I was going to say...
It's a question I get asked quite a lot.
I mean, it's great that you're not, because obviously we need you in the NHS, but it must be, you hear, I mean, obviously, gosh, the news is full of it all the time, isn't it? Just how the pressures and the stresses everyone's under. So you can see why people leave and try and go a different route.
Maybe it's something I'll do one day, but at the moment, I like my job. I like working in the NHS. There's lots of... It's obviously, they don't pay you a lot of money, but there's lots of perks to it otherwise. And I feel that's where I want to be at the moment.
Which is just amazing.
I think you can qualify as a physio and work privately straight away.
Okay.
So you can...
Oh, that's a good... I should have asked that question.
So you can...
Do you know people that did that?
Yeah, people do it all the time. You can set up a practice whenever you want. You're qualified, you've got your registration.
So those who've never had any intention of going into the NHS, they just...
People don't. They go and work privately straight away.
Okay.
That definitely would be for me, because the amount I've learned and the amount of people that I learned from. Yeah, absolutely. So... I think, I've now got skills that I could take to work privately, but I don't know. I just like working in the NHS.
Well, may that continue. And I guess if you're working there, because Mary Clare, who I interviewed, who's a surgeon in the NHS, she very much talked about the camaraderie and the people and that they really, really make it. And I guess people that are in the NHS, let's be honest, you're there out of choice. You could go private, and you're there because you want to help, you want to make a difference, you believe in that side of things, and in many ways you're sacrificing your own income, aren't you, to kind of try and be part of something bigger and something a bit more.
I know you have a little life in you yet. I know you have a lot of strength left. I know you have a little life in you yet.
I work with some physios with 30 years experience. You can't get that just anywhere, and I can say to them, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And that knowledge is amazing. Being able to just access that in the next cubicle. Hello.
But also, I feel really mean saying this for private people now, but maybe more resourceful, because like you say, because you have got such limited assets at your disposal, you've got to really, like you say, try and think and just be a bit more.
And also within the NHS, we have to be very up to date. Not saying you're not privately, but very up to date with what the evidence says, evidence-based practice. And we're not going to overtreat because we don't have the resources to overtreat. Do you know what I mean? But then you wait to see the waits are long, and it's great that there is private services available for people who can access them and can afford them. Because there's some brilliant physios out there working out there too. A few of my colleagues do a bit of both, and they do some private clinics and work in the NHS. Do whatever you like, really.
Oh, wow, okay.
So they do a bit of, some might work for a sports club or might work, do an evening clinic and things like that.
Interesting.
So they do a bit of everything.
A bit of both.
Yeah.
So what is it, do you think, about you that makes you good at your job? You've already discussed you being a people person.
I think that helps me at work, being a people person, because I've got half an hour, sometimes even 20 minutes to meet you, find out what's going on, find out a bit about you, make you feel comfortable enough to disclose your medical information or some problems you might be having, and then convince you to assess you and look at you, but then convince you that, you know, these are some things that might help, or choose a path for you to go down. So I've got to be able to quickly communicate with people, and build a rapport with people quite quickly, to make them feel comfortable enough to trust me, really.
Yeah.
You know, there's no point me knowing things if the patient doesn't trust me and doesn't feel comfortable around me.
Yeah.
They're not going to be... Yeah, it's not going to work, is it? That therapeutic alliance, they call it therapeutic alliance in the NHS. Your therapeutic alliance is really, really important.
Yeah.
Because people are often in quite a lot of pain or uncomfortable or, you know, distressed, and
you've even got to talk people down in those sessions as well. There's a lot to get through.
Or have had, you know, if people have had life-changing injuries.
Oh, yes.
Or difficult diagnosis. I treat patients who've had head and neck cancers, and had surgery, potentially facial reconstructive surgery, or you know, other surgeries that have been really, really life-changing. So those people, well, all patients really, you know, need to be able to build that kind of, you need to be able to build the rapport with them quite quickly.
What has been the absolute best part of your career so far? Is there one standout memory or just a reoccurring thing that...
I think the people I work with actually is a really, really good part of my job, wherever you go.
Yeah. Working in the NHS,
yeah,
the people...
just working in the NHS, or working in the physio teams that I've worked in, you know, we really have good fun. Which is nice.
Yeah.
You know, you look forward to going and seeing those people, whether they're physios, occupational therapists, doctors, nurses, reception staff, all of those people. It's good fun.
That's really nice, isn't it? Because if you don't enjoy... You've
got to like your colleagues, haven't you?
Yeah, well, a lot of people won't, will they?
If you have patients to come in, you know, and they're a bit more tricky, or they're a bit angry about something, things like that, if you can come away and know that your colleagues are going to be there for you, I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And they see the funny side of some of the things that can occur.
Yeah. Well, I guess they're interacting with them probably in their own way. So, like you say, reception staff and stuff, aren't they? God.
And you know,
I mean, NHS like doctors' receptionists must put up with an awful.
Oh, they do. They're really amazing humans. I can see why sometimes they get a little bit grumpy and a bit stressed because it's hard work for them. Really hard work, because you can't, you know, everyone in the NHS, well, maybe not everyone, most people in the NHS are working really, really hard and trying really hard every day.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's difficult, isn't it? You know, you can't always offer people the appointment they want. You can't always do things as quickly as you want.
I know.
You know, you have to, there are waiting lists, there are things like that. But, you know, at the point you hope that at the point you really need them, that they're there, aren't they?
I've always found that with, I mean, definitely if you ever, you know, I've had it with my kids, with myself, if you ever end up in like A&E or anything like that, I mean, it's just the cares, you know, when, like you say, it's unrivaled. I think it's amazing. I think it's, you know, they've done some amazing things for my children, definitely. So, flip side of that is, what's your least favourite part, least enjoyable part of the job?
I think I'd obviously like more time. I'd always like more time to do things, and to be able to do things. My least enjoyable part of my job at the moment is I actually manage the annual leave for our department. It's quite a lot of things to think about. But no, I think sometimes it feels frustrating when you really want to make a change and it's difficult to do. Or if you really want, it's not just thinking about resources. Sometimes you think it would just be so much better if this wasn't, the system that we had to use. What can we do to change this? And actually making those changes takes so long. But sometimes you just have to kind of adjust to them and
do what you can.
Just go, okay, well, there you go. Actually, at my work, we've got a leak in the ceiling, which is pretty annoying.
Okay. God, I bet there's
no
a lot
one
of
wants
NHS
to fix
buildings.
it.
Yeah.
That's the General Hospital. Leaky ceiling. Please, come and help us.
And I guess are patients frustrating in the sense of you see them, they go away, they've come back, they've clearly not done that work. Because I bet that, and I know that from I'm going to be awful now and say, are old people terrible at that? Because my dad had loads of operations before he passed, and he'd go away with physio and he would never do any of it.
I think you get to a point where you accept that people don't do things that you ask them to do. That's kind of okay.
So you're going to see them, and the only improvement's been in what you did to them.
But if someone goes away and they do one thing, so I say to patients, look, I now if I'm giving people exercises, I might give them about 3 things to do, because I think, well, have I got any chance? No chance more than 3 things.
Yeah.
Unless they, athletes super keen.
Yeah.
And I think, okay, well, people are busy in their lives. Let's see if I can give them 3 things to do. And can one of those things be whilst they're doing something else?
Yeah.
So, can you just, while you're brushing your teeth, balance on one leg? Can you, while you're washing up, do some little, come up into your toes now, do some heel raises? So you think, every time they do that, will they go and do that exercise? Still maybe not. Yeah. But I've got to the point now where I'm quite open with my patients and I say, look, if this isn't the time for you to be at physio because you don't have time to apply yourself to these things, that's also okay. You don't have to come because I'm saying come. I saw a patient with one of my more junior colleagues the other day, and he'd said, oh, should we book you in another appointment in this length of time? And I said to him, I just said to the patient, what do you think? And the patient said, I don't think I need to come back. And I said, okay, that's absolutely fine. Our patients can have an open appointment for 3 months, give them that leeway. That the patient needs to take responsibility, Here's our phone number. You've got 3 months. See how you get on. Any problems, even if it's next week, call us and you can come back in. Because people need to take responsibility for their own healthcare.
Yeah, and feel like they've got that ownership as well. Because that's what you're doing.
It's yours, isn't it?
Can you give me an example? It's always my favourite question. The strangest thing that's ever happened to you in your job.
People coming to physio, it's not necessarily strange because people do this. They come to physio for like a knee or a hip or a shoulder assessment and with like a lack of underwear, but you need to.
I didn't know you were going to go with that then.
People need to wear. If anyone's going to the physio's probably going to want to look at the joint that you are going to the physio for as a general rule. So if it is your knee, they probably want to be able to see it, to access your knee. So it's always better to have shorts with you or wear them, or if you are happy to be in your underwear, wear some. I think like that. I work in the upper limb now, so it happens to me a lot less often. I don't always work in upper limb, to be fair, but I work more. My caseload is more upper limb biased.
I feel like the lack of underwear
that might be the thing that did it for me. I just think I recommend people, if they want to get the most out of their physio, looking at their joint or wherever it is that they need to look at, underwear is a good idea.
It's a good call. Wow, that was
my recommendation.
I feel like you started off where you weren't going to say anything, and then you've come up with a blinder there. You've come up with a blinder there.
That's my advice to patients.
My
advice to physio, if you're thinking about becoming a physio, is have a spare set of uniform at work because you never know what might happen.
Right, do I even want to ask any more questions on that?
Well, you know, sometimes I've definitely knelt in things that you wouldn't necessarily want to kneel in. I've definitely had catheter bags explode down my legs.
Okay,
I've been carrying them for patients.
Yeah.
I've definitely, people have been sick on me before.
Yes,
it's all fine.
okay,
It's all normal things that happen. That's why you need to spare uniform with you.
Yeah.
I vividly remember actually sitting a lady up for the first time after some surgery, and often people feel really nauseous after you sit up for the first time after surgery and you get out of bed.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm going to be sick, and I'm looking around thinking, I do not have a bowl anywhere in sight, so there's very little I can do. She's really unstable, so I was like, I'm just gonna have to ride this out, and just hope she wasn't, because sometimes people feel nauseous, they're not,
and they're not
sick.
Yeah.
She unfortunately was sick, and I was with a student, and the student, cleverly or not maybe, managed to spring up onto the chair, and she was still on the chair next to the patient, while the patient was sick, and like the splatter everywhere. It was all over me.
All over you.
Yeah, that happens to me.
So patients need to wear underwear.
Urine,
yeah.
Vomit, poo.
Poo?
Oh yeah. Sometimes you might walk someone and poops drop out on the way.
Right.
Not in outpatients. Remember, I work in outpatients now.
Can I just say poo keeps coming up in these podcasts? I can't tell you why.
I'm the sort of person that, you know, if you come into me and you're like, oh, you've had a wound and I haven't washed my hand and it's healed, and I'm like, oh yes, let's get it under the sink, let's wash it, let's moisturise it, and I'll happily flake your skin off for you.
Right, okay.
I'll happily make that
better. I feel
better.
like you've got a whole TikTok account waiting for you to, you know, like now, pimple popping, callus removal, that's massive on TikTok.
Yeah, that would be good.
You can set up this. I mean, my next question is, what's next? And maybe what's next is a massive TikTok career.
Massive TikTok of like just picking at
bits
things.
of people.
No, but it makes people feel better if you've had a wound on your hand and it's clean and it's moisturised. How much better does that make you feel? Are you more likely to use your hand if it feels better?
And that's your end goal, isn't it?
Yeah,
to get them to
exactly that. And what's next? Oh, who knows? I keep going to work. Keep going to work. It's quite fun. And see where it takes me.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, and then, like you say, maybe later down the line, you could do a bit of private or not. Have to see
maybe
what it was.
Oh yeah, I'll just have to...
I guess with you, maybe you've got to kind of see where the NHS goes.
And also,
it feels very much like it's on the cusp of radical change, but whether that radical change will come or not, and what it might mean.
Slow and steady change is the NHS.
Yeah, it is. It's a tanker turning, isn't it?
Yeah. I think we'll have to see what happens next. I have a really varied week. I see lots of people, work with nice people. I like my job, and I'm quite busy otherwise.
Okay, my two final questions.
Yes.
The first one is there any advice that you would give your younger self, younger Clare? And it could be school, college, uni Clare. Any advice that things you wish you'd maybe known earlier, done earlier?
So I'm not a very reflective person.
I think it's just because you seem very... You're in the... Well, but your whole career is very like treating there and then, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's dealing with what's in front of me.
Yeah, that is what I do for
and I'm not forcing you to think.
I think just take all the opportunities you can.
Yeah.
That is what I would always say.
So all of those placements that you did, all those different things.
Just take them on. Just go.
Give it a go.
Learn. Yeah, wherever you go, you're going to learn something.
Yeah.
I think.
That's great advice. And then the final question is always a bit of life advice, which could be the same, to throw out there into the world for men, women, children, old people. Anything that you think, like mantras that you live by, or things that you think.
I always try very hard to be quite optimistic and enthusiastic about things. Like if you try and look at the positives in what you're doing, then you don't notice the ceiling tiles are falling in so much, or there's a drip. Yeah. You know, you try and I think just try and look at the positives in what you're doing. It makes it more enjoyable, doesn't it?
And do you think you've always been like that?
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, because obviously a few people have given similar advice, and it's such wonderful advice, and it sounds so easy, but it's like it can be, you know, people have phrased it as, you know, just enjoy the small steps, you know, enjoy, you know, just find some joy every day in your life. Just try and find some joy every day.
Yeah. Try to look at the positives. And
look at the positives, because it can change your whole outlook, can't it? And I think as women, definitely, we are always juggling a lot, aren't we? And it can be quite easy to feel a bit overwhelmed, a bit lost sometimes, and to kind of you can, you know, and not feel sorry for yourself, but kind of get annoyed, and, you know. Yeah. So it's really, really good advice. Thank you very much, Claire.
No problem.
If you would like to hear more about this chat, see some behind the scenes pics and some personal profile pics, plus read about how to get started in this industry and or this role, then please go and support us on Patreon. The link is on this podcast page and across all of our socials. Sincere thanks in advance.